So we're going to make a really simple version of just a random player movement. Now you can build on this, you can make it a bit different, add a bit more depth to it, but as a core component, this is like the most simple way we can do an AI character movement. So before we start, I just want to sort of go over and say I'm using Kenny's free assets for this. So if you go to the Kenny website, you can download. He's got some meshes. They've got a couple of a running, an idle, and they'll be enough for what we're doing. He's also got a more premium version, I think, for £10. Should you be interested, $10 US. So I'm going to be using that for this. So I've just already got those downloaded and implemented in here. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to start by creating a new blueprint class of a type character, and I'm going to call this AI underscore BP, and let's open that up. And inside here, inside our mesh component, we want to bring in the character one. It's got purple. It's got purple in this one. If we could see both at the same time. So he's got a purple background there. So let's bring that one in. I brought in the texture as well, which if you just right click and say create material, it'll create you a material for that. So I'll bring that in too. There we go. Now we've got our zombie, and is a bit big by comparison to the scene. So I'm just going to scale him down a bit. So I'll just put my padlock on and say to, I don't know, about 0.4. Why not? And make sure it fits better in my capsule. Well, 0.4 was a good guess. So it fits nicely in my capsule at the moment. I'm just going to quickly set up the animations as well. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go animation blueprint. There it is. And select the appropriate over this, which is character medium. And simple AI anim BP. Now I'm just going to keep this super simple because animation blueprints can be quite detailed. And here let's bring in my running. Let's bring in running. So where's running? There it is. So I'm just going to drag that in, drop it in, hit compile, and it should start running. Perfect. For now, that's pretty much all I'm going to do. That would, like I said, we're not in this video. We're not trying to do anything complicated. We're just keeping it simple. So in mesh, I'm going to switch my animation blueprint to simple anim blueprint, and we can see he's now running. Okay. So anything else we want to do at this point? I think that's about good for the initial setup. Right. The next thing we're going to want to do is go into our event graph. Now in our event graph, this is where we're going to set up pretty much all of our logic. And we're going to start by using the event tick. Now off our event tick, let's add input. We want to add an input. Add input on the character movement. So accessing the character movement, and we're going to say we're going to add an input. Now that input, instead of being a vector, let's split this down into 3 floats because we're not actually going to be using the Z. We don't need an AI to go up and down for this. Now we need to create 2 variables. So I'm just going to drag off this and promote a variable, which we'll call X for our X movement, and drag off this, which we'll promote a variable, and we'll call Y for our Y movement. And then what should we do next? Once we've got that set up, we're going to want to randomly set these to different values. And the way we do that is, let's grab this event begin play and let's do a set timer by event. Now what this does is it's going to run a piece of custom code and we'll say every 1 second and just repeat for forever. Off this little square thing, this is where we attach it to our custom event. So let's create a custom event. Update direction, we'll call it. And remember to not use spaces. Update direction. Now in update direction, what we're going to want to do is we want to set this, and we're also going to want to set our Y. And what we set these to is just going to be a random float in range. Now I don't know what values to go for. Let's just go for -100 and +100, and we'll just give it a test. And we're going to select that and press Ctrl W to duplicate, and hit compile, hit save. Let's drag our player into the world and hit simulate. So just hit your little down arrow and press simulate, because I've not got a character in there, I've not got a view. And we can now see he's running off pretty fast in random directions. So I'm actually going to change this to, let's try 50. And also note, he didn't actually look direction. We need to tell it to look the direction he's walking. And there's a nice little tick box inside the character movement system. What's it called? Stuff for rotation. Character rotation settings. I'm not using the controller, so let's orient rotation to movement. Let's try that again. He's not quite facing the right direction. So let's just go back to our viewport, and you see we've got this base arrow telling us which way is actually forward. Switch you, 90 degrees. It's still a bit fast. I might take these down to, say, 20. I mean, he's running around like a madhead, but we get the idea. Every 1 second, he switches direction and runs off. He's fallen off the map. The map was too big for him. But you know, you can just tweak that by, again, just instead of it being every 2 seconds, maybe we'll just go, let's be a lot more dramatic, every 4 seconds. And again, it says that this is way too high. Let's just try 2 and see what 2 looks like. Still quite fast. Another thing we should do as well is make sure that our event tick runs at a consistent and steady pace. So to do this, if you've used Unity, this is instead of like using updates, like using fixed update. So we're just going to do a float by float. And again, I'm just going to duplicate you. So you, by you, go into you, go into you. Right, I should, and again, 4 was too high. Let's change this down to 2. Oh my gosh, now he's not moving at all. But it means we can go back and start setting our values a bit higher. And again, depending on the scale and the size of your game, these are just going to be numbers that you'll want to mess with until it looks right. There you go, now we've got some nice, simple, random movement. Okay, so let's say this time you want it to collide with something and change direction. So in your world, you've got walls and buildings and various different things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this blank block down. I'll move this out of the way for a second. And in here, make sure we go to collision and we want to generate overlap events. I'm just going to duplicate it as well. And all it is, hold Alt and drag. Right, now what we want to do is go to our player. Let's add, because we don't want it to actually hit the full on wall. So let's just add a new collision box. And that collision box, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's just say about there. And scroll down. In here, we want to find on begin overlap and click the plus. And that's going to add it to our script area. Now, if we were to look for something particular, like, we had like buildings and stuff in there, or we're using tags, we could use these. But for this, I'm just going to say whenever it hits anything, aka when that collides with something, we're just going to do a print string just to make sure it works. And for the sake of test, I'm just going to make it go up and down, just so it goes between them. So it's already collided with something. There we go, we see it. When you got close to the wall, it said hello. And again. And let's just pull these a bit closer to each other so it happens a bit faster for the next test. So now we've got this, we're just going to do a simple trick where we're going to say we're going to do a times 1. So let's say, for example, we're moving at the moment with a speed of 18. If we do 18 times 1, then the answer is 18. But if we do 18 times minus 1, then the answer is minus 18. And that's just basically going to reverse the way we're going. So I'm going to want to quickly create 2 new variables for this. So I'll call it flip x, and we're going to want another one called flip y. So I'm just going to highlight that, Control W, promote the variable, flip y. Why didn't that name? Flip y. And let's u to u. And again, I'm not going to set it up just yet, because I'm just testing on the x. Now, here we're going to set, and here we're going to set u2. So once we hit collision, we're going to set it to -1. Not -4, -1. And after a delay of, I don't know, half a second, you could set that to whatever works for yours. We're just going to put it back to normal, which is just 1. So let's give that a test, shall we? So goes over, gets close to the wall, and returns. I mean, because these walls are quite small, it kind of doesn't know which way to go. But we can see it's never actually sort of touching the wall, so it's just flipping each and every time, which would totally work for what we need it to. And I think that's pretty much all we're going to need for our simple AI movement. There you go.